morning, everyone. My name is HUNRE, and I'm your lecturer for today's lesson. In this unit, we are going to learn about job application and CV writing, which are two very important parts of the job seeking process. By the end of the lessons, I hope you will understand how to prepare professional application documents and feel more confident when applying for a job in the future. Now, please look at the title slide on the screen. Today's lesson is Unit 6, Job Applications and CV Writing. It is a very practical unit because it focuses on professional communication skills that students will need outside the classroom. For example, when you apply for an internship, a part-time job, or a full-time position, two important documents are usually required: a job application and a CV. So in this lesson, we are not only learning language and format, but also how to present ourselves professionally. As we move through the slide, please think about how these skills may be useful in your own future career plans. Now please look at the learning objectives on the screen. By the end of this unit, students will be able to identify the structure and common features of English job applications and CVs. You will also learn how to understand job advertisement and recognize important job requirements and key skills. Another objective is to have you write a clear and well-organized CV. Another objective is to have you write a clear and well-organized CV for professional context. In addition, you will practice writing a good job application letter for a specific position and learn how to check and improve the application documents by using feedback. So this lesson combines knowledge, writing skill, and practical application. Now let's begin with the base concept of a job application. A job application is a letter or form that contains details about person qualifications, skills, and experience when applying for a job. Please note that this is not just a simple formality. It is usually one of the first documents an employer reads before deciding whether to continue with a candidate. So a job application is important because it introduces the applicant in a professional way and shows whether the person may be suitable for the position. As you listen, ask yourself, why is the first impression so important in the job applicant process? Now, let's look more closely at the definition of job application. A job application is a letter or form sent to an organization when applying for a job. It usually includes the applicant's qualifications, skills, and experience. It also serves as a professional introduction between the candidates and the employer. That is important because it is often the first formal contact between both sides. So when we talk about a job application, we are not only talking about content, but also about professionalism, purpose, and presentation. Please keep this in mind because the definition will help us understand the following slides more clearly. Now let's move to the role of a job application. Can you think of why employers need this document before the interview stage? One important role of the job application is that It works as an initial screening tool. Employers use it to assess whether the candidate meets the basic requirements of the job. Since companies often receive many applications for one vacancy, they need an efficient way to reduce the number of candidates. That is why the job application helps them shortlist the most suitable people. So, from the employer's perspective, it saves time, and from the candidate perspective, it creates the opportunity to move forward in the recruitment process. Now, let's focus on the purpose of a job application. A job application is not written just to provide information. Its main purpose is to persuade the employer to consider the candidate further, and usually for an interview. To do this effectively, the application should clearly state the position being applied for and highlight the most relevant qualifications, skill, and experience. Please notice that a strong application does not simply repeat the CV. Instead, it selects the most useful information and connects it directly from. Nói lại đoạn này nha. Instead, it selects the most useful information and connects it directly to the employer's needs. So the purpose of a job application is both informative and persuasive. Now please think about this question. Why is a job application so important? A job application matters because it can strongly influence whether a candidate is shortlisted or rejected. It is more than an administrative document. It is also a strategic tool for self-presentation and self-marketing. Through this document, candidates can show not only their qualification but also their seriousness, their professionalism, and their attention to detail. In a competitive job market, many applicants may have a similar background, so the quality of the application can make a very important difference. That is why a well-prepared application can significantly improve the chance of reaching interview stage. Lại nha, reaching đọc nhầm là reading. That is why a well-prepared application can significantly improve the chance of reaching the interview stage. Now, let's have a look at the professional conventions of a job application. A job application is usually written as a formal letter or email. Sometimes it may be submitted together with a CV or an application form. In modern recruitment, some companies also use online application systems. No matter the format, the application should always be clear, concise, well-structured, and professional formatted. It also uses formal language, correct grammar, accurate information, and an appropriate tone. So this slide reminds us that writing a job application is not only about what we say, but also about how we say it in a professional context. Now let's think about the ethic of a good application. Why does it matter so much? A good application creates a positive first impression. Employers often judge candidates not only by their qualification, but also by the way they present those qualifications. A strong application shows communication skills, attention to detail, and professionalism. It also helps a candidate stand out from others with similar experience or educational background. So when an applicant writes carefully and clearly, the document becomes more convincing. It means that good writing is not only a language skill, but also an important professional skill. It can greatly improve a candidate's opportunities to be selected. This slide compares a strong application with a weak one. A strong application is clear, relevant, and convincing. It presents the right information in a professional way. In contrast, a weak application may contain spelling mistakes, poor structure, or an inappropriate tone. Even strong candidates can be rejected if their application is careless or unclear. This shows that success is not based only on qualification and experience. It also depends on how effectively applicants present themselves in writing to potential employers. Now let's move on to a short exercise. Please read the 3 questions on the slide. The questions are designed to have you review the most important points from the text we have thus discussed. I would like you to think about the definition of a job application, the document that may go with it, and the next stage in the recruitment process. If you already know the answers to one of the questions, you can save it in your mind first before writing it down. Please try to answer it in a concise and accurate way. Once you finish, we will go through each question together and make sure the key ideas are clear. Now let's look at the bigger picture. Applying for a job is not just one single action. It is a step-by-step process that begins with a job search and may end with a job offer. This slide introduces the 7 main stages in job application process. Understanding these stages is important because it helps candidates prepare more strategically and communicate more effectively with employers. As we move through the next slide, please try to follow the order of the process and think about which stage you may find most challenging in real life. Now, let's begin with stage 1, job search and self-assessment. At this stage, candidates look for suitable job opportunities, but that is only one part of the process. They also need to evaluate themselves. For example, they should think about their education, skills, experience, strengths, and career goals. It helps them understand what kind of job is the best match for their profiles. At the same time, they should research employer and industry. So this stage is important because good applications usually start with good choices. Now let's move to stage 2, analyzing the job advertisement. When candidates find a suitable vacancy, they should read the advertisement carefully. Please ask yourself, what is the employer really looking for? Candidates need to identify the main responsibility, requiring qualifications, and key skills. It helps them understand employer expectations more clearly. If they skip this step, their application may become too general or less effective. So, careful analysis of the job ad. So, careful analysis of the job ad allows the applicants to prepare more relevant documents and use more appropriate professional language. Now, let's continue with step 3, preparing application documents. At this stage, candidates prepare the two main documents, the CV and the job application letter or email. The CV summarizes education, work, experience, and key skill. The application letter explains interest in the job and highlights why the candidate is suitable. One very important point is that these documents should be tailored to each specific position. They should not be copied and reused without changes. So this stage requires careful selection of relevant information and professional presentation. Now, let's look at stage 4, submitting the job application. This stage may seem simple, but it is actually very important. Candidates must follow the employer's instructions carefully. Some applications are sent by email, some through online systems, and some through forms. At this point, accuracy and clarity matter a lot. Candidates should check attachments, spelling, formatting, file names, and guidelines before sending. Even a strong application may fail if it is submitted incorrectly or incompletely. So careful submission is part of professional behavior. Now, let's move to stage 5, screening and shortlisting. This stage happens on the employer's side. After receiving applications, employers review them to decide which candidates appear most suitable. They usually look at the qualifications, experience, relevant to the position, and overall presentation. Because many people may apply for one vacancy, the screening process helps employers reduce the number of applicants. So, only the strongest or most relevant candidates are shortlisted. This shows why written documents are so important. They determine whether a candidate will have a chance to continue. Now, let's continue with stage 6, the job interview. Candidates who are shortlisted are invited to an interview. At this stage, employers evaluate more than written documents. They observe communication skills, confidence, attitude, professionalism, and overall suitability for the role. The interview also gives candidates a chance to explain their background more clearly and respond directly to the questions. They may also ask about the job or the organization. So, the interview is not only about being evaluated, it is also an opportunity for both sides to decide whether the job is a good match. Now, let's look at the final stage, job offer and acceptances. After the interview, the employer may decide whether to offer the job to the most suitable candidate. At this point, the candidate should review the offer carefully. This includes salary, benefits, responsibilities, and working conditions. Sometimes, certain terms may be negotiated professionally. This step is important because success does not end with receiving the offer. The candidates must also make a wise decision and ensure that the job matches their needs and long-term goals. So, acceptance should be both positive and thoughtful. Now, please look at the diagram on the screen. This slide gives a visual summary of the entire job applications process. It shows the flow from job search to preparation, submission, screening, interview, job offer, and acceptance. This visual is useful because it helps us see the process as a connected journey, not as separated tasks. Each stage depends on the stage before it. For example, careful job search leads to better application document, and better documents improve the chance of passing screen. So this slide helps you understand the logic of the whole recruitment process. Now let's move to practice task 1. Please look carefully at the instructions. In this activity, you need to match each description to the correct stage of the job application process. This task is useful because it helps you connect theory with real examples. Instead of memorizing definition only, you will practice identifying how the state appear in actual situations. If you are working in pairs or groups, please discuss why you choose each answer. After that, we will compare the responses and check the logic together. Now let's go on to practice task 2. This time you need to put the stages into most logical order. At first, this activity may seem very simple. However, it is useful because it checks whether you really understand the process as a sequence. Please think carefully about what comes first, what comes next, and what usually happens at the end. This task reinforces the idea that job application is a structured process, not a random set of actions. So, understanding the sequence can help you become more organized in real-life job applications. Now, let's move to the second major topic of today's lesson, the curriculum vitae, or CV. A CV is one of the most important documents in the recruitment process. While the application letter explains interest and suitability, the CV presents factual information about education, experience, and skills. Employers often read the CV quickly to get an overview of the candidate. So a strong CV should be clear, relevant, well-organized, and easy to read. As we go through the next slide, please think about whether your own CV already includes these qualities. Now, let us define what a CV is. A curriculum vitae or CV is a document that provides a summary of a person's education, skills, and work experience. Its purpose is to support a job application and show the candidate's qualifications in a structured way. This slide also mentions the differences between CV and a resume. A CV is usually longer and more detailed, while a resume is shorter and more selective. So, in professional and academic context, the CV is often the more complete document. Now, let us focus on CV formatting basics. What makes a CV easy to read? One important factor is layout. A good CV should use clear headings, bullet points, and consistent spacing. The font style and structure should also remain consistent throughout the document. Another important point is the visual professionalism. A modern, clean design helps the employer read quickly and understand the content more easily. So this slide reminds us that formatting is not decorative only. It plays a practical role in communication and readability. The first section of a CV usually includes contact detail and personal statement. Contact details should be clear and professional, including full name, phone number, email address, and possible a LinkedIn profile or a portfolio link. After that comes the personal statement, which is a short summary of career goals, strengths, and key qualities. This section should be brief but meaningful. It gives employers a quick overview of who candidate is and what they can offer. Now please look at these two important sections, education and work experience. In the education sections, candidates list institutions, dates, qualifications, and sometimes relevant coursework or achievements. In the work experience sections, they present job titles, company names, dates of employment, and key responsibility or achievements. These sections are very important because they provide concrete evidence of the candidate's background. So when preparing a CV, students should ask themselves, which experiences are most relevant to the job I am applying for? Now, let's continue with the final section of the CV. The skill sections should include both hard skills, such as software or language skills, and soft skills, such as teamwork and communication. The interest section is optional, but it can have show personality and positive quality. The interest section is optional, but it can have show personality and positive quality if the interests are relevant. The references section may include contact details of referees. The references sections may include contact details of referees, or it may simply say that the references section may include contact details of referees, or it may simply say that references are available on request. So these sections help employers get a fuller understanding of the applicants. Now please look at the slide on the screen. First, focus on the CV example on the left-hand side. Can you notice how clearly the information is divided into sections? We can immediately identify contact details, skills, languages, education, profile, and work experience. This is one of the main strengths of a modern CV layout. If you look at the right-hand side, you will also see some key design principles. A good CV should use clear headings, consistent formatting, a professional typography. So when writing down all CV, remember that content matters, but readability and representation matter too. Now, please look carefully at this practice task. In this activity, you will draft or revise the old CV based on the guidelines from the lesson. Before you begin, think about your target positions. Are you writing for a teaching job, an internship, or an office role? That is important because your CV should include relevant information only. Please also pay attention to layout, formatting, and selection order. If possible, extend the CV with a partner to peer feedback. When reviewing a classmate's CV, ask yourself, is it clear? Is it relevant? Is it professional? So this task helps you apply the lesson in a practical way. Now let's move to the reflection task. Please take a moment to look at the questions on the screen. The questions are designed to help you think more deeply about what you have learned in this unit. For example, what challenges did you face when writing your job application or CV? Which part was the most difficult for you? Was it the language, the layout, or choosing the right information? Another important question is, how does the CV reflect your own strengths and qualifications? Reflection is important because professional writing is not only about completing a task. It is also about understanding your own progress and knowing what to improve next time. Now we have come to the end of today's lesson. Before we finish, let us quickly review the main point we have covered. Today we learned about job application and CV writing, including their structure, purpose, and importance in the recruitment process. We also look at the stages of applying for a job, from job search to job offer, and we examine the key parts of professional CV. I hope this lesson has helped you understand not only how to write this document, but also why they matter in real-life employment situations. Thank you for attention and participation.